Any other comments or questions about what we're going to do tonight? Okay, go ahead. I'd like to call to order the July 8, 2014 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners. As always, if you'll join me as we begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and if you join me in prayer, I'll do the invocation. School's out. We have vacations. We have 4th of July holiday, and summer's halfway over. Many of us are already anticipating football, promise of cool weather, basketball. God help us to enjoy each moment. Time can never be stored, reused, played again. And everyone has the same amount of time. During this time help us to honor veterans, elderly, and those people who represent us in the military, in schools, in government, churches, and other organizations. Help us to understand that while we may disagree with an individual on their position, we should respect the office, job, or place in our social structure. Give us respect for other people. And that often means that when we respect others, we respect ourselves. Sometimes respect is a direct mirror of our belief system and our value systems. God help us to be better people. That's the bottom line, just better people. And thank you for today. Help us to make the best of it. Amen. In accordance with our Code of Ethics adopted by the Board of Commissioners, it's the duty of every commissioner to avoid both actual and possible conflicts of interest. Does any board member have any known conflict or possible conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before us tonight? If not, we'll proceed to public comment. The time limit for comment to the Commission is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave any questions along with your name, address, and phone number with the County Manager. Commissioners are not expected to comment on any matters during public comment. This is your time to talk to us. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of the Commission or pertain to matters upon which we may act. In pre-session, we decided on the budget we're going to have a separate public comment session, so I would ask that anyone that has comments about the budget directly to wait until we have that session of public comment. Any individual speaking during public comment should address the entire Commission. Any polling of commissioners is inappropriate. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and to be respectful of everyone in the room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting. And the Commission reserves the right to deny public address on any subject that's previously been presented to the Commission. Do we have any public comment tonight at this session of public comment? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Baldwin?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Lisa Baldwin, and I serve on the Buncombe County School Board. I'm glad to see on your agenda that you'll be selecting a voting delegate tonight for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Conference. I hope that you will all attend because it's located in Asheville this year and no travel is involved. Meetings such as this are invaluable for networking, sharing ideas, and training. If you attend, you might learn that other counties are requesting school budgets by purpose, code, and function. I understand that 17 county commissions are now requesting this level of line item detail in their school budgets. But Buncombe is not one of those counties. What else might you learn at the NCACC meeting? If you talk with New Hanover County commissioners, you'll learn that they do receive a line item school budget by purpose, code, and function. They also fund the same size school district as Buncombe County Schools at a much higher rate, about $15 million more for teaching and learning. They collect virtually the same amount in property taxes as Buncombe, but allocate a larger percentage for schools. It's all about priorities. For fiscal year 2014-15, Buncombe County will approve spending, or the net county cost for total education will increase by 2% over 2013. However, at the same time, you will see a 21.3% increase in human services over that same 2-year period and a 14% increase in public safety. Again, that was only a 2% increase in education funding. And tonight you'll approve a small $2.6 million increase to the school budget, and you should. However, this increase is smaller than originally requested by the school board. If you had seen the line item budget, you might have thought differently about reducing the amount requested. Instead, you might be wondering why so much is being spent on administration and operations and so little on helping teachers teach and helping children learn. As we sit here tonight, about $50,000 in bonuses are going to principals and assistant principals for attending extracurricular activities when there are none in July. In fact, there's no accountability for nearly $600,000 county tax dollars spent on extra-duty administrator bonuses each year. In that line item budget, you would have also seen that instructional supply and textbook funding fell from $1.8 million to $1.1 million over the last 3 years. I urge you to join the 17 counties who are concerned about focusing county tax dollars on teaching and learning. Please ask for the budget by purpose, code, and function, also known as line item detail. Thank you so much for considering my comments.
Thank you. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir, Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Hope you've had a wonderful 4th of July. Yes. The safe one. Looks like you got back all one piece. No fingers missing, no toes missing. You're in good shape. We had a good one. This might come up in the budget, but I'm still concerned about the CRA. And it seems like everything has just went flat line. We know that there's a law passed for this and budget made and all kinds of work went into this, and then all of a sudden you don't hear nothing. So I hope the county manager addresses some of my concerns. If not, I'll bring that up a little later. Because that's a 7-cent tax. It can go up to 7 cents. So if this thing is done away with, I'd like to know for sure that it's done away with. And then the other thing is, if it is, how much does it cost us to do what everybody has done? The other thing about the CRA is greenways was in this. And I've noticed money that's been appropriated, but no discussion in public about the greenways. Also on the school property at Inca, on the deed, that's how I found it, not here, but on the deed that the school got, there's a big chunk of land designated on the contaminated river there for the Greenway project. It wasn't discussed here, but it's on the deed, and it costs money. Nobody said a thing here. Nobody. There is one big concern that I think this board needs to take in consideration, and that is the connection, if they are, I'm saying if, or potential, with CTS and the potential lawsuits in the future, and how the board attorney might be connected that we have here today. I think this board needs to look into that, because in a lawsuit, if you're named in it, you know it could cost the county a lot of money. So if there's a conflict of interest, I think the board needs to take action today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment tonight? All right, then we will proceed with the agenda. We have a consent agenda that includes a resolution that has an add-on item, a resolution authorizing the execution of law enforcement mutual aid agreement. Mr. Frew told us a little bit about that during pre-session, but if I could get you to come up just to so the public will understand what that resolution is about.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. As part of the AB Tech construction process, Buncombe County now owns, as of sometime last year, 12.5 acres of property on the AB Tech campus on Victoria Road, where the Allied Health building is going to be constructed. Site prep is completed, and we're about to lay down a bunch of material for construction on the site. And someone thought to ask, does the AB Tech Campus Police have jurisdiction on county-owned property? We know the Sheriff's Department does. We know Asheville Police Department does, but the AB Tech Campus Police is on site all the time. So just to make sure that no one's missing anything, we just want the authority to enter into a jurisdiction agreement between AB Tech, Asheville Police Department, and the Sheriff's Department. And the Sheriff is good with this plan, and we just want to have authority to negotiate that and have it signed. It should be short, sweet, and simple as soon as we can get 3 boards' approval.
All right, sir. Any questions about this potential add-on that we've talked about in pre-session? I see Sheriff Duncan is here. Always good to have you here, Sheriff. All right, sir. Then is there a motion to approve the agenda, including approval of all the consent agenda items, plus the add-on that Mr. Frew has just told us about? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion, a second, to follow the agenda as it's been published, including the add-on resolution authorizing the execution of law enforcement mutual aid agreement. Any discussion? All right, the motion is by Vice Chair Frost, second by Commissioner King. No other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then we'll follow the agenda and approve the consent agenda by 7-0 vote. Next order of business is the 2015 fiscal year county budget. And we have Dr. Green to tell us a little bit more about that.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, it's really nice to be here. This is our 4th trip to talk about the 2015 budget, but I think we're set to go tonight. So if we could start the PowerPoint, we'll walk through the highlights of the budget. Okay. First, we're bringing you a budget tonight. There have been some changes since we presented the budget, but a total of $368,462,255. That's the total budget. If you take a look at the breakdown of the budget, in 2014, we had a general fund budget and a Culture and Recreation Authority budget. Tonight, the general fund budget without Culture and Recreation is $281.4 million, and we use 56.9 cents tax rate to generate that. And the CRA budget is $10.6 million, basically, which was generated with 3.5 cents. We can no longer have 2 separate tax rates. We will be combining those tax rates, which it's not an increase in tax rate, it's just a combination of the two, just like we had in 14, to fund the general fund portion of the budget at $292 million. That new general fund budget, one of the things I want to point out to you is we've had a lot of questions around what percent of our budget is certain components of the budget. The denominator changes pretty significantly between 14 and 15 because of bringing Culture and Recreation back into the general fund, so you have to be real cognizant of that as you look at the makeup of the budget. When you add the general fund budget to our non-general fund, which includes things like insurance, fire districts, solid waste, and a number of self-supporting funds, the total budget is $368, $462, $255. We do still have a decrease of $322,000 in the general fund. It's been an interesting process to get to here, but it is nice to bring you a budget with a little bit of a decrease in it. And like I said, the budget tax rate we'll ask you to set is 60.4 cents. Every time I've stood here, I've made the point that we just don't govern alone. Whether it's the County Board of Commissioners, some of the authoritative boards that you have, other local governments, state agencies, the General Assembly, and the federal government, they can tell us, yes, you can, no, you can't, and you have to. And when they say you have to do something, they can tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And so we just don't get to completely operate in isolation. And this last month's been a really good example of how much they can change what you do and how you structure doing that with the elimination of the CRA, and then just the challenges we've been through as the state has negotiated their way through the budget. We still don't have a state budget, but we feel like we do know the components of the budget enough to move forward tonight. Let's talk about how they tell us we can generate money. If you look at our revenues, if you take intergovernmental revenues, sales tax, property tax, it represents 88% of our revenue stream. But we don't have a lot of other options. There are some fees we can charge. There's a few user fees we're able to have, especially in some of our non-general fund services. But overall, we have a very restricted revenue source, with property tax being the largest portion of it. Sometimes it's a little easier to see that in a chart than it is a graph, but you can see the breakdown there of the different revenue sources that we have for the general fund. The general fund does include an appropriation of $7.6 million in fund balance. That is down from what we appropriated last year, or for 14 at 9.3, but we feel like we can make this budget work. I say this every year, and I mean this. We will do everything in our power, and the year actually started a week ago, so we're already working at that to save that fund balance. We've been successful with that for 20 years. So those are our revenue sources. With the CRA coming back into our budget, our core services of education, public safety, and human services represent 87.3% of our general fund budget. So we don't have a lot of flexibility in our budget. These are the things that we have to provide. Core services are where we see the greatest increase in our budget this year. In social service, we're seeing a $3.6 million increase. We've been able to do a lot of shifting around in our budget in order to cover these, and that is primarily from NC FAST complications. We talked extensively about that when we did the budget message, and we'll be happy as we go through to answer any questions about it, but that's the driving force behind that increase. Public safety at 3.8, that is primarily debt service on the new facility, and you'll see that later in the presentation when you look at the debt service numbers, but $2.6 million of that is debt service on the new courthouse. We do have some computer issues that also fall into that category. And then on K-12 education, there's a $3.1 million increase in the budget. I'd like to just refresh your memory when Dr. Baldwin was here at our public hearing. That's $3.1 million is driven by a 3% salary increase based on what we're hearing from the state. That's $1.2 million. 9.5 teachers that they're expecting to lose if the House budget passes at $575,000. The race to the top, we're having to supplant some federal funds at $350,000. Retirement and health-related benefits for employees, $142,000, and then textbooks and technology at $260,000. That's the county's portion of it, and then the city, we give them the average daily membership or their proportionate share based on the enrollment. So that totals $3.1 million. If you look at our full budget, regardless of whether we generate the funds or we receive the funds and have to pass them on to another agency, or we receive reimbursement, you have to prepare a budget that includes the receipt and distribution of all of those funds. So this graph shows you the breakdown of the how we budget in terms of human service, education, public safety, general government, all the different functions of our government. So this is the whole picture of our budget. And just showing you the breakdown, when you're looking at the whole picture, you can see that human services is the larger portion of that. Education at $79.5 million is the next portion, and then public safety at $76 is the next largest complete portion. But we're able to draw down revenues in these different categories. And when you look at the revenues that we draw down, if we start at the bottom, on human services, we draw down $41.4 million. That's primarily seen in intergovernmental revenue. So our net county cost there is $57 million. Drops from being the biggest number to the smaller number in terms of the county costs that we have to cover. Public safety, we draw down some Medicaid, Medicare, and our human services, and then we draw down some other intergovernmental revenue and a few fees. So that drops that cost down to $62.6 million. And in education, the revenue that we show there is sales tax, Article 40 and 42, that we have to use for current capital, and we do pass that through to the school system. But basically, the cost that you cover for the school system, the $68.6 million, is for the operation of the school system itself. So there's a couple of ways to look at the numbers, and if you look at them in total, you get one structure of how the budget's split. But if you look at it in terms of the monies that you have control over and have to come up with, by far the largest number that you come up with is for education, and you can see that in just where the property tax dollar goes. If you, I can talk all day about percentages, and it all depends on which numbers you combine to make a determination. So I think the hardcore way to look at it is, did the dollars that we're investing go up? And as you can see by this chart, the dollars that we're investing in education, whether it's city schools, county schools, or the debt service, have changed. Now the debt service is down a bit, but the investment in the classrooms and local equipment is actually up. So that's how I think we ought to measure our commitment. We also pay for a lot of local paid positions. And in 14, it was 875 local paid positions compared to the county's general fund at 1369. Now, in all fairness, as we bring CRA back into the general fund, we do add about 50 positions back to our workforce. So what happens if they do something we don't expect in Raleigh? I don't think that we've been told repeatedly by a number of sources to look at the Senate budget and the House budget and assume the least harmful. And that's what we've done. But can we handle it if the most harmful happens? And I do think that we can. If you look, and Ms. Clark confirmed these fund balance numbers with the school systems, and of course she has ours, we all have a pretty decent fund balance. We have different responsibilities related to ours because we do provide the facilities, and we do have different sets of eyes that look at our fund balance and how well we manage that over time. But if you look at the school systems, whether it's K-12 or AB Tech, the only fund balance they have came from Buncombe County. It's the excess of what you gave them versus how much of that they spent. So if you look at county schools, it's $9.1 million. And if you look at city schools, it's 6.3. Now, that's not to say that they don't have some commitments for both of those blocks of money, but if the worst case scenario were to happen, we can manage through 2015. Let's talk for just a minute about the capital plan, because a lot has changed on the capital plan and how we're going to handle it going forward since we were here in early June to talk about it. The staff has put together a plan on what we think our needs are and some estimate of cost associated with that. But both at CRA and in this boardroom, we were asked to go back and take a look, just revisit, where should we have a human service complex? Where should we have a pool? What should that look like? And we are doing some due diligence on that to look at all of our alternatives. So we're not asking you tonight to let us start spending money on capital. What we are saying to you is we will be prepared in January for a capital budget retreat. And at that point in time, we will roll out for you everything that we've been able to find and all the alternatives that we've come up with. where these facilities could be located, how they might be configured, and what the cost could be on that. So when you look at this capital plan, it's a little different than what you've seen before because we are coming back to you in January before we spend any money on capital. When we brought you the plan before, often with very large projects, you don't see money in the initial budget anyhow because we'll capitalize the interest over the construction period, so it didn't impact the budget to take a different approach to the capital. As you look at the second page, these are the longer range projects, and we also will visit those when we come back in January. Just to prepare you as you start to think about what we want to do, let's talk for a minute about some of the requirements you have on capital projects. When you look, we always take a look at the assets that we own or have that we manage or we have to have ownership of. And in 2014, and you can see the breakdown there, the purple bar is what the county owns, the blue is Buncombe County Schools, and the green is Asheville City Schools. Oh, excuse me, the green is AB Tech, blue is K-12. It's a little bit easier to look at it here so you can see the whole block. Currently, we are carrying $434 million in debt on $988 million in assets, about 44%. A little over 55% of the debt that we carry is for education, as you can see on this graph. And when I spoke earlier about debt service going up for public safety, you can see the green bar on the chart on the right. That's just the courthouse, bringing it online. So we have a pretty good past performance and plan when it comes to capital. We try to hold our debt service pretty steady in our budgets and use the capacity as it frees up going forward. We watch that very closely. And this is just a history on debt service in our budget. We're holding pretty steady at 10.8. We do work, actually Ms. Clark works pretty diligently at this more than the rest, to try to keep our interest rates or get our interest rates as low as possible. 80.7% of our debt we're carrying at less than 4% fixed interest, and we watch that which is not lower than that or even that which is below that to see if there's opportunities to lower that interest rate as we go along. And that's how we manage, that's just one of the ways we manage capacity. So there are several other things in the budget that I want to talk about. Some of the issues that we have in is eliminating a cap on the employee's ability to buy their vacation. What that gives us is the opportunity to lower our liability, our OPEB liability. It's not an additional cost, it's just an ability to lower that debt earlier. We do set a planning fee schedule with this budget. We establish a quantity discount tipping fee at the landfill for our large haulers. And the biggest issue that we have in the budget is an early retirement incentive package. Our goal is to reduce positions and reduce personnel costs. That's the only reason we would bring you a package like this. And my goal is to deliver $1 million of annual savings with this project. We looked at how many employees are eligible to retire, whether it's full or reduced retirement, and we have 280 who are eligible to retire. When we talked about bringing you this in early June, we told employees, come in, if nothing else, run your retirement numbers so you know how this process works. Well, we've had 178 employees come in and take a look at that. We've had 60 who have told us, if the commissioners approve this plan, we will be taking this option. I've met with department directors several times now, and so far, having met with department heads over about half of our workforce as of yesterday afternoon, we have identified 12 positions we'll be able to completely eliminate and a little over $900,000 of recurring savings. So I think that we are well on our way to be able to stand here and tell you, if you will offer this plan, we will be able to achieve the savings goal. The plan is really very straightforward, and it has to work for us, and it also has to be attractive to the employee. So the three main components are, we extend employees' insurance premiums to retirees up to the age of 65. And many of them were eligible for that anyway. And we reduce the number of service years that you have to get your Medicare supplement. So that's part of the plan. And then the bigger component here is that over 3 years, we will pay retirees 1 year of annual salary. Now, there's no upfront cash outlay to do this. We'll be able to manage and pay evenly over time with this. I think we will realize the savings. We're down 200 employees from where we were when the recession started. We did a lot of that with contracting. And I do think I can say this on behalf of all the workforce. It's staggering sometimes to think about lowering the workforce even more. If you look statewide, discretionary spending is about 8% for counties. Even bringing CRA back into the general fund, ours is closer to 4% because we have done a lot of work to reduce our staffing and invest in core services. So it's a big commitment, and it's a balancing act for every department to be able to say, yes, we need to move forward and do this. But I do think one of the really good things is we've never been afraid to take on a challenge regardless. I mean, I think we can make this work. We see everything. We saw the recession as a tough time, but an opportunity to do what we needed to do. I think we see this as having some challenges, but able to do what we need to do and make this happen. So we're very hopeful that you'll support the early retirement proposal. And with that, I would just tell you, I think we have before you a balanced budget that's manageable, sustainable. We think we can execute this budget and deliver the services that you would expect us to deliver to our citizens. And I really look forward to us adopting a budget, and I hope we can do that tonight. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I have a few. Thank you for doing all this and appreciate the patience. Part of the increase in social services, is that directly impacted by us not taking the Medicaid expansion?
I really would have to ask Ms. Stone to address most of that. A lot of it, though, I can tell you, as she's preparing to answer that, is related to the automation that the state chose and the length of time it takes to process applications, and then part of it is from federal marketplace issues. You want to just...
There would not be any county savings related to expansion or non-expansion under the Affordable Care Act of Medicaid because we don't pay for any of the services related to Medicaid. The only potential area where you might see savings is if it provided coverage to enough entities that you reduce the $2.3 million that you allocate to primary care, either through the FQHC or through MAHEC. If I ran those numbers for you, and we have run very detailed numbers, I would tell you that I would project the need is still much greater than the 13,000 who would become Medicaid eligible who currently aren't, and that the FQHC and MAHEC would argue with you that there is still a substantial number of individuals who need that coverage who currently don't have it. So I really don't see the community telling you if Medicaid expanded, there'd be less of an investment in primary care. There are no savings in social services. If Medicaid expands, we would actually have to increase staffing to address the eligibility components of that.
But wouldn't, if 138 million came from Medicaid, the expansion to the state, wouldn't we be
Those are service dollars, and we don't. North Carolina struck a deal, counties, how many years ago? 5 years ago. We no longer pay for a portion of the services of Medicaid, so no portion of the county budget is Medicaid services. The only portion the county pays for is they're required by federal law to cover 50% of the administration.
Would it be fair to say that more people would be covered with if we had Medicaid?
There'd be 11,000 additional people eligible in Buncombe County. There are already 1,800 who are eligible due to what's called the woodworking. But I'm saying I believe the safety net providers, which are the FQHC and MAHEC and ABCCM, would tell you that the need is still so much greater that they would argue you couldn't reduce your financial commitment to primary care. Those are the only dollars you invest that would be impacted by the expansion of Medicaid. You give $2.3 million to Minnie Jones a year, and we get about 16,000 unduplicated patients covered because of that. In the FY15 budget, We are allocating additional $300,000 in Health and Human Services to MAHAC to cover an additional 2,500 unduplicated patients that are actually discharges from the safety net, like hospitals, jails, psychiatric facilities. That would be the only place, is those dollars you give directly. Neither of those are reflected in the social services budget.
Okay, thanks.
So I think summarizing that, we wouldn't have a savings in our budget, but we would have a lot more people in the community covered.
Right.
And is there a change in the education budget from the earlier presentation?
There is a change in the education budget. When we initially brought you the budget, we did not include the 9.5 teachers, so it has been changed by $575,000 for Buncombe County Schools, an increase of that amount, and then the proportionate increase just shy of $100,000 for city schools. So there has been an increase.
So this money will mean that if we didn't do this, we would have 9.7 fewer teachers in the classroom because of the General Assembly cuts. Is that right?
Yes, and Dr. Baldwin presented that when he was here before, and that was his estimate.
And there will be money per diem to the city schools also.
Yes, sir.
And they will also preserve teachers, which may add a few more numbers there.
Yes, sir, it would.
Okay. And this also included a 3% teacher increase in salary. Is that correct?
It does. When we initially did state budgets, we estimated they initially thought a 2 or 3% increase, so this includes a 3% increase.
Okay, so every teacher in Buncombe County, if this budget's adopted, will get a 3% increase.
This is the county's share of that for the locally paid teachers. The state would pay the increase for the other teachers.
Okay, thank you.
But, Chairman,
Yes, sir, go ahead, Mr.
in this just come about today, earlier this morning. We're all for the schools, I am, and I want them to have the money. But why do we give Buncombe County Schools $9 million fund balance and they don't ever have to use it? If they keep coming back, there's money there that they could utilize right now where it could, it's changed our budget from $367 million to $368 million. But they got $9 million laying there. And, I talked to Tony Baldwin as late as yesterday, and he was comfortable with where they were. They were going to make things work. But it's, and I'm still for the schools, and we'll do what we can. But there's areas here I think that we can actually go back and we can cut some stuff out of the nonprofits, that we can come up with this $500,000 or $600,000 to help these teachers. I'm for the teachers big time, and I'm for the kids and the schools and the whole package. But I see things here that we could physically cut now that would help Ms. Green, where we don't take our fund balance from 6-point-some million to 7.4 million in that area. Maybe I'm wrong, Dr. Green, but hopefully I'm close.
Yeah, 7.6.
And
I would, looking at the community funding list, even with a great commitment to the Art Museum, pretty much everything we have in community funding touches children. They touch domestic violence victims. So I think these numbers in the community funding have been carefully thought out. Nothing is frivolous. They're incredible organizations that do an amazing job to the citizens of Buncombe County, mainly the people that can't always advocate for themselves. So I wouldn't be on a fishing expedition in community funding to cut anything.
I look at the picture as, I took a total. I looked all weekend before I saw this school deal coming forward. We have 42 nonprofits on this list. We were at 1.7 million last year. We're at 2.3 million this year, but there's one that's fell off. Western North Carolina Medical Services, that was 350,000. So if you add that 350, that was dedicated and gave to Miss Stone's DSS area. So we're dumping one area to make it look good in another area. And, you know, I'm asking, why do we need $250,000 for a art museum today?
The art museum.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Why do we need, we look at the carbon footprint picture, and I'm for saving all we can save. But I've talked to Brownie about this, and in the first year of it, if we cut the thermostats to 74 degrees for everybody in this room and their offices, that's, we'll keep it the same. But I don't think the people over at the courthouse are going to like it, so we're going to mandate everybody except certain people, like other things that happen. We have a high-dollar system that the City of Asheville, Buncombe County, Sheriff's Department, and 911 uses. The room has to stay 68 degrees all the time at dark. They have no heat. They run air conditioners summer and winter. So until we can figure out what we're doing, we don't need to invest $250,000 in something that we're not sure about, but we do need to invest in kids. So what's more important, the schools, or hopefully that we, Mr. Ilsworth's in the back there. He knows how to save energy.
I think reducing the carbon footprint will have an overall effect of helping children.
Well, the first year, the first 2% can't be met. So where are we wasting money on the first 2%? Let's give the kids money at schools like these people are asking for. 42 different things that come up to $556,357. That's 15 new items that was added to it. I guess we need all them. Then we take, y'all decided, some of you, to add another $248,000 to it, so that brought it up to another $176,000.
What would you take out? Just go through the list.
First, I'd take the art deal for now because we're not spending the money. That actually would show it wouldn't be in the budget. We're setting our own money supposedly for something. If we take it out now, that's $250 that we can give to this school. How are we going to work together when all we want to do is spend? We got, every time I see something, it's give this, give that. Well, let's give back to the people just a little bit here.
What nonprofits would you take out?
I would take, let's see. I'd take that out, and I'd take the first portion of the carbon footprint out until we get the full issue, because I got a thing, if we can get it put up on the board, up on the screen here. Judy, if you could put it up, please. If you look at the top of that, that's $104,000 for thermostats. That's supposed to handle everything for us. If you look at, and I know it's hard to see from up there, but if you look at the other picture, we did year 1 and we did year 2 all at one time. We didn't do it 1 year at a time. We did 2 years. So, but year 3 it goes up to, and in year 1 and year 2 with all the little lines that you see there, the breakdown is pretty good. It would, some of it would work, but year 1 don't really work right. But the rest of it looks pretty good that it'll make it work. But when you get to year 3, and it's going to take 17 years to pay back something, and here on, and you got $557,000, but then you go to year 4, $1,900,000. It's going to take, this is the part that we did not hear in the last thing, because it kind of got left behind and shoved under the table, that this is really going to get costly, and to save $1,980,000 saves 2.1% on the carbon footprint. And we're looking for 80%. What do you all want to give these schools $500,000 or $600,000? Nothing? There's a lot of things in here that can go.
Oh, tell me what they are.
Well, let me look here right quick. I can come up to $100,000 pretty quick. I can come up $500,000 pretty quick. The art deal. You turned around, they suggested in the art deal to back them down, which we pay their light bills and stuff. Mr. Israel does that, and then we give them the rest of the money. They were it was asked for them to go to 275. Y'all decided to take them to 409,000. How about backing that down? We're giving one entity, and we got something here on our desk that entity's not doing too good. We're giving over 700,000 to. You know, I like art, and you know, it's Manna. I want Manna to be given 30,000 but other people can do separate things too. Hey, my brother's dead and gone, and he gives them 20,000 a year for Love and Foods Resources, which is a nonprofit, and it's not on this list. Simple fact is, people, we can only take so much from the county people. Period. And you know, as I said, I talked to the superintendent last night. He was good. The superintendent had talked to Mrs. Green. I think they were trying to figure it out because the state hadn't figured out what they're going to do yet. But all of a sudden at 10 o'clock this morning, there's 5 votes to just go ahead and give them all this money. Well, I didn't know about it until this morning. You know, everything's kind of put around a corner here. Well, I don't mind being left out. But I think that if you're sitting on that end and you want us to do something on this end, you get rid of $500,000 of this stuff and give $600,000 to the school, I'm in here to vote with you. I promise you that. Because I am for the schools and I am for the teachers. But, you know, I'm not for just giving this town away. I'm not for whoever wants to walk through this door. And there's 42 of them on this list.
So we heard about the art museum. We heard about the carbon footprint. What else?
Okay, but one of the ones he mentioned was Pack Place.
So
the difference between 409 and 275, which was 130.
The art museum money is $250,000 a year, $250 from last year, $250 for this year. I hope we can continue that, but that's contingent on them.
They keep putting $2.8 million on the list is what they want. They don't reduce that.
So it's $250,000 towards the new art museum. And that's separate from the Pack Place money.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And there are restrictions on when we would pay the $250. It was an interesting resolution. When the nail hits the hammer going into the wood on the constructions when we're to release the money. So, sometimes you guys see humor in the way the emotions come down.
But I think the point is, and it is a good point, is that the Pack Place, for example, there's $409,000 that came over from the CRA, and $275 would pay the utilities and pay the maintenance and keep them going. And so the difference between that 175 and the 275 and 409 is real dollars. I mean, we come in at $322,000 decrease, right, Dr. Green? $322,000 decrease. But the last time it was 1.6. Are my numbers right?
Excuse me. Yes, you're talking about the reduction in the general fund?
Yeah, the reduction.
Yes.
Yeah, which was right. Which was
at
showing
1.4, and we went to 322,000. But a lot of that is education, and then some community development, and we did get a couple of hits from the state.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's really two things. One is the increase in the school funding, and the other is the community development grants. Isn't that pretty much it?
Stormwater fee increases and medical examiner wrap up the increases.
How much was that?
Stormwater is $16,000, medical examiners $133,000.
Okay. So, my concern on the community development grants, I could answer that. I think reasonably specific, and I know the board knows, and I know you do too, Vice Chair Frost. Know my heart towards children. That there's no one would question my heart towards children, and I understand that each of these are great. I mean, they do good works. My concern is that we had such an increase over last year in the community development grant. So that's where my concern was. And how do you? It's not a bad question. How do you go and pick those? one thing we did this year, and it's I just happened to think of it just the other day. It's really, it's not anybody's fault up here. My fault as much as anybody's. Is last year we had everybody come in and talk to us, and this year somehow we missed that. And it's very effective when you get to hear them, because some of these that you may be familiar with, I'm not that familiar with, so I'm not going to have the same direction, the same heart, and maybe not the same vote towards that funding. But my concern is it went up $700,000, and it's easy. I mean, it's not hard to do.
It just did not go up. I mean, I'm trying to be patient. It did not go up that much. It went up $116,000 community development grant. If you look at Dr. Green's community funding, and you see the current funding total down the bottom is 2.24. Correct? Where did Commissioner? There she is. Just if I'm wrong, please correct. I'm so open to being corrected. But the way I'm reading this spreadsheet is that there's the 2014 current funding, and the total is 2.241595.
Yes, ma'am.
Then the recommended, which is what you've included in your budget, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Is 2.357628. The way my calculator works is about $116,000. It is an increase. $116,000 is more than last year, but it's not this $500,000. It's not $700,000. It's just not these crazy numbers that are being thrown around. So I will respect the fact that there's concerns about that, but let's at least be accurate with the public of what the data says.
Okay, let's be accurate.
Okay, let's do it.
When you voted 2 years ago, and there's 5 of you, you voted on $1,300,000. That's what you voted on. Last year, we sat in this chamber, and I put a PowerPoint up that showed $1.6 million, except Ms. Green was forced to put $100,000 back into this thing that you put $400,000 in, so that took us to $1.7 million. Now, there's a lot of difference between what we voted on last year, and the CRA has got all this deal totally screwed up, if you want to know the truth. It's got us all screwed up. Had me, I've spent all weekend looking at it. The preferences of some of the commissioners here is $248,000. One of them is Asheville Downtown Association Foundation, $25,000. That wasn't any part of anything last year. They asked for it this year, and it was given to you, but that was done through the commissioners. Child abuse prevention, nothing wrong with that. That's $18,000. That's something that was new too. Homeward Bound, $50,000 wasn't in here last year. It's brought into the picture. There's 15 new things brought into the picture. Now, I looked at the federal side of it that was taken away, and a lot of people tried to get the money from us. You didn't give all of it to them. $67,000 that we did. $50,000 went to fiscal legal because they lost $137,000, and they give $17,000, I think, a governmental agency. That went to food security and wellness for food assistant recipients. That they lost that, so that was given to them through here. The numbers you can't screw numbers up when you got 42 things that come up to $2.37 million, and you've got 15 new items that come up to $556,000, and you got other items, 4 items that it's basically $176,000. Them two there's $732,357 over where we were.
Well,
If you
you
see, you got to figure
you
the
just
one
tell me
thing.
when I can talk,
One thing
Mike.
you
I'll
got
be
to
happy
figure
to
in
wait.
is the Western Carolina, and that's $350,000 that you dumped on Mandy, on social services. That's not showing up on either one of your charts. $350,000 is gone.
All right, Commissioner Jones, let me recognize you. Go ahead.
I respect that that people on this dais have different approaches to government and different approaches to investments. I see it very clearly that the allocations that we are making are investments in our community and our citizens. They're not giveaways. They're not, whose hearts moved. I look at our strategic plan, our sustainability plan, with our goals that are laid out, and see where the needs that we do not meet as a local government, or perhaps other groups can either do better or be more cost effective, but our citizens need them, our community needs them, and determined that I think an investment on behalf of this local government is appropriate. I totally respect that people have a different way of looking at it, but it's not, to me, I don't approach this as there's 15 new things and there's this, it's like there are needs in our community that I did feel that our community has asked that we address, and this is a way that we're addressing them. They do vary. And I would say if you looked at the majority of them do have children related to them. Many have safety related to them. We have found new dollars for Helpmate. We have found new dollars for Pisgah Legal's domestic violence work. We have found new dollars for child prevention services. And we have found new dollars for hunger relief. We have found new dollars for mental health counseling for vets at Homeward Bound. And I think that there would be nobody in this audience that would say that they had not heard someone ask about or refer to those needs in the last 12 months. We know they exist. We know this is a drop in the bucket, but it will make a difference. So I really respect that you're coming from a different place, Joe and Mike, but I think it's important that you understand that the perspective that I have, and maybe some others on this dais share as well, this is not about charity. This is about investment in our community and our citizens in improving the quality of life. That's how I've made the determination of what to invest in. Sure. Now, is every line, I think the thing that is really maddening about this is that this is a $368 million budget with no tax increase. And we are quibbling about some line items. I'm not saying there's not important to y'all, but I'm just saying we are really losing the big picture. And sadly, we are modeling what is not attractive about government, because this is all about compromise. Is everything in this budget what Holly Jones would like? No, it's not. But I do think collectively the goals that we are trying to reach as a community are very well founded. And in terms of the investment in education, it shouldn't be any surprise to anybody. On the recording, if you go back and look at it, we had both superintendents stand up there and say, this is the additional dollars that we need. I was absolutely convinced that was a legitimate need. If other people do not think that, that's fine. That's why we vote up or down. But it was a very specific request. It was put on paper. It was made in public, and I think it made a lot of sense. I want to support and retain these probably 11 or 12 teachers. I would like to support the class ratios staying at 1 to 17 instead of having to go to 1 to 18 as Raleigh dictated. That was what they asked for, again, in public and on paper, and I think several of us thought that made a sound case and made those comments to our county manager. There's nothing backdoor about it. There's nothing hidden about it. And I think it reflects our community's investment in education. We are listening to the experts. We are not dictating line item by line item, because you know what? The people on the school board that we elect to be on the school board think about this stuff a lot more than we do. 9 of them do, more than the 7 of us do. So, and Tony Baldwin and Bobby Short think about this stuff more than Holly Jones. So when they stand up there and ask me and can feel my questions about education, and to a degree that I feel confident in, I'm going to go with their understanding of what they need for their education funding as opposed to what I think. They're the experts, not me. So that said, I hope this helps you understand where I'm coming from on all this, but I do hope that if you've got problems with something else, make an amendment, we can vote it up or down. But kind of this back and forth, we're really doing a disservice to all the staff that worked very hard on, let's review, $368 million budget that took months to get here, and we're arm wrestling about something that somebody likes or something that somebody doesn't see as a need for the community. So
Wait a minute. You're talking about that. We took $44 million off this plan today. We took another $6-some million off this plan for a swimming pool today. Now, that's just today. We've had 2 weeks to do what we've been able to do. Okay, our money is the money that Tony Baldwin and Buncombe County Schools hold as a fund balance. Now, why don't we pull that $7 million back in, or $9 million? It's $9 million that's sitting over there in a fund balance that belongs to the taxpayers of Buncombe County. That would help him. As I said, I've talked to the gentleman. He was going to make it work, but all of a sudden he didn't know this even happened. So that's okay. What happens behind closed doors happened behind closed doors. But I'm going to bring it forward. It did. Mr. Gantt had to ask her if we done anything to change this budget just a minute ago for the school, and she said yes. Right here is her old budget that she presented the other week.
Well, and Commissioner Fryar, if it hadn't been identified, I would have made a motion. More. It's not a secret. I mean, it is not a secret.
It was until it was asked today.
Okay.
There's other things been asked today too, but that's beside the point. The fact is, does anybody want to give anything up to help these 9 teachers with their job so that our fund balance is not taken to $7.4 million? That means our staff has to go find money to try to cover that $7.4 million before the end of the year, because $7.4 million is basically 2 cents in property tax that we can say we're not out of budget. We overextend, but we go ask all of our staff try to back it up a little so that we can give away to all these other things. I want to give the money to the schools, period.
Well, that's great.
I love the teachers, and they need to teach. And I'm over at AB Tech, but if you're not willing to give anything up, I'm not willing to vote for this budget. And it's not anything to do with the schools, but they want everything they want.
I know you love the children. I know you love the teachers. I know you love the schools. But frankly, I probably may have been moved by that argument a year or 2 ago, but with the question mark over Raleigh right now, with on the table right now, the idea of that the teachers' assistants go away, the idea that we're saying use your fund balance when we know that these are hot proposals. I think it would really be folly. I think it would send a terrible message to our schools, which I will not do. I will not be part of that anymore. And so I respect different perspectives on that, but I think if ever there was a reason for the school systems to have a healthy fund balance, maybe a little healthier than they need, it is now.
Not when they don't use it.
Well, they might be getting ready to use it. They might be ready, and I'm behind them. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner King.
I'd like to also reiterate what Commissioner Jones has said. We're not asking for any tax increase. We're not applying a tax increase. As far as the community funding goes, all 7 of us could sit here and scramble this many different ways, and there's no easy way to come up with how we come up with it, but it's a negotiating process. For example, Helpmate, one way or the other, we're going to pay for that. We can either channel some funding into that, or we can handle it through social services, but one way or the other, that money is going to be spent. And I'm not haven't run the numbers, but looking at the $2.3 million, isn't that about 1 cent of sales tax? I'm not sales tax, but property tax.
Property tax is 2.8.
Okay, so it's a little less. So we're sitting up here quibbling over 1/60th of the property tax. 1/60th of that is what we're quibbling over. It's a lot been said about this. A lot's been said about how it's spent and why it's spent, and a lot's been made about this. And I certainly respect that. I respect people's views, and that they may not want or may not feel that government should fund some of these things. But there are just as many citizens out there who also pay taxes who feel very strongly about funding these things. And the position that we are in is one of trying to balance the desires, the needs, and the requests of the entire community, not just one portion of this community. And that's what a good commission does. We look at the entire community, not just those that say, let's cut and cut. Because last year I was willing to vote for a budget that had a healthy increase in it because we were faced with the need. And I asked Dr. Green, I said, if we do a smaller budget, will we need to come back next year and ask for more money? And she said yes. So it was better to take it at one time. This year, as a result, we're not back looking at raising property taxes. We're doing a budget within the confines of what we set aside from last year. And I think it's a good budget, and I will vote for this budget. And I will continue to support the things that this community wants to support.
All right.
Could you just answer about Project Access?
That money was moved inside one of our departmental budgets because we're repurposing it to meet some of the more immediate needs. I think discharges is where we're going to meet most of those.
That's accurate. We manage the other safety net dollars within the social service budgets or in the health and human service budget. So staff made the recommendation to move Project Access within the health and human service budget because that's where the FQHC sits, it's where the MAHEC funding sits, it's where the safety net funding sits. And to be honest, it's a very complex system, a very fragile system, and we really didn't feel like it should be a part of these negotiations, but rather was something we should manage through performance-based contracts. It sat in community development for many years at $350,000. We've been working with Project Access to reduce that funding over a couple of years, which they have agreed to. It originally paid for our prescriptions, which are, there's no longer that need because of the FQHC and because of prescription assistance. So we're moving toward their navigation of the safety net system for low-income individuals, and it's replaced on your community development list again with staff recommendations, and one of those is the $140,000 one-time money to build a health care clinic in Candler. Where our, if you look at our socioeconomic indicators, it's the highest need, access need there. So that's $140,000. That's one-time money. $150,000 to issue a request for proposals for a poverty remediation, self-sufficiency, an evidence-based model, one that's been proven through research to help people move from poverty into generating income and self-sufficiency. So that'd be issuing. That's $150 of it. The $17,000 to cooperative extension to do nutritional counseling and obesity work with low-income citizens and food and nutrition recipients is the other component of that. I think I'm close to $141,000. And the $6,000 difference is the request for poverty remediation was $156,000. We're only issuing the RFP at $150,000. So I think that is the exchange for the $350 that sat in there. And I need to own those on behalf of Health and Human Services. They very much were staff recommendations, all of those.
You know, I think one of the things that's frustrating, and I do share and understand everybody's frustration and position when they advocate for certain things. But, you know, when I looked at these community development grants, and HHS made certain recommendations. And I have tremendous respect, and all of you know this, for our staff and what they do and their hard work, and I rely on that. I rely on two things when I make a decision up here. One is the experts, the staff that we have here, and the other is input from the community. And I do not want to leave out anyone at all. So when I looked at the community development grants, and one of the reasons that no one heard me advocating for any other dollars is that I went with the recommendations of that department. And there is where some of the savings comes in. And I may not be accurate on my math, but it's a large amount. And that was my main concern. Last year, we agreed in principle, I think. We used the word recommended, but we agreed to have these performance contracts to try to seek out the best folks that we could find to provide these services. And where I come up with my difference, and where I come up with the heartburn for me is that there are additional ones that have been added, and I'm not supportive of those dollars. Somewhere you have to say, here's our vision for the community, and we want to do X, Y, and Z. But if we keep saying yes to everything, we may not be able to do X, Y, and Z, in the future. And so the education part of it, when I saw the presentation, I knew we was going to fund that. I don't think there's anybody here that's not going to support the schools and education. That is very, very clear. And certainly for me, I put my name on protecting children here. $1.2 million and tens of millions of dollars in construction money, and making sure that we're taking care of our kids. So I think the education part of it, for me, I just want to be very, very clear that I am 100% supportive of it. I do understand the frustration when I mentioned that we want to reduce $130-some thousand. Pack Place, for example. If it's 409 and we have staff recommendation of 275, then I don't understand why we can't do that as a board. I don't understand that, why we can't agree that we could actually save that money. Because if we saved that money, then we could take that money, and I know we couldn't do it, but for $500,000, do you know that we could give every teacher assistant in this county a 50-cent increase? Now, I understand that we can't do that. I understand it's got to be, worked through the school board and everything. And I understand that some of this is a drop in the bucket. But if we come together and can, save some things. There was a request from someone here for $50,000. Last year we gave them $30,000. If we'd have gave them $30,000 this year, they'd have probably been tickled. Well, that's $20,000. And all I'm saying, the only point I'm wanting to make, and I'm going to hush, is that let's look at those things. Let's look at some of those smaller items that are $20,000, that are $70,000, and let's take those and collectively come up with a way that we can do more for our teachers, for education, for our assistants. We saved those assistant teachers' jobs, right, Miss Green?
We did last year.
This board did?
We certainly did.
And y'all know where I am on that. But we can do more and not react so much to external influences if we have a little bit of money available to do that. So that's where I'm at, and my position is very clear on education. I'm very supportive of that part of the budget. I'm not happy with the community development grants. I think they should be kept at HHS recommendations. I think that's doable, and I think it does take a lot of conversation, I guess, to be able to pull that off, and some of it's okay, and I think it's okay that we have it, in here. It's fine.
Do you think we should always follow the recommendation of staff blindly?
No, I didn't do it blindly. I did that
No,
with
but you're saying
No, I would never
following-
say that.
But-
I would
but
never say that.
But what happens when a climate change, Pisco Legal Services, for instance, they got their funds cut dramatically. We're giving them a fraction of what they had asked for. They serve a vital role in our community, and yet if everything stays stagnant, their funds get cut. We have people out that are going to cost taxpayers more money because of the services they provide. So I don't think you can say and complain, and then I'll stop talking about this. I don't think it's a good argument to say there are more things on this list. As growing needs happen, Homeward Bound gets people into houses and back to work. So I don't think it's a fair assessment to say, I can't vote for this budget because we have more things on it. If you don't want to vote for the budget, that's fine, but don't hide behind Pisco Legal Services, Homeward Bound, and other institutions.
Well, I'm not hiding, and again, I said I was going to hush, but I'm not hiding behind anything. I think that's unrealistic, and I would never direct that comment in your direction. I'm not hiding behind anything. I'm not blind to anything because, I've looked at this and studied it, and I want to support the education part of it. I would love to be able to. I'm going to do that. I do that all the time. It's a portion of the budget, and people like to pigeonhole you and say, well, you didn't vote for the whole budget, so you're not for this. No. You can't do that. Our voters are smarter than that. Our constituents are smarter than that. That's not our heart. We're going to support this education portion of the budget. I'm saying that there's several $100,000, and I mentioned a few of them, and we won't agree on them, and that's okay. And I'll move on. But there are several $100,000 we could take. We could use that for other things that I believe would benefit the community more and benefit the constituents more. And I'm done.
I do think, talking about Pisco Legal, Ms. Stone, don't we support them through DSS2? Not only with this particular money, there's X amount of dollars that comes from DSS to them already.
They do have contracts with DSS outside of this money, as do several of the nonprofits, with some component of Health and Human Services.
That's a good way to use money where they don't have to hire people. But when you're given to the till two different ways, and Pisco Legal's done a fantastic job, and I have to say that. But I've sat up here at this board, and I've seen people say, well, Ms. Jones said during the chemical thing that we put forward, isn't there a way that we can get together? Well, I'm asking, aren't there a way that we can get together? That's all I'm truthfully asking. There's a $500,000 in here that, just like Joe said, there's some money there that can go away that they didn't recommend. Somebody else picked up and recommended on that. I want to vote for the school. I think what Ms. Baldwin had to say tonight, they need to step up in certain areas too. But you asked for giving, and one gave, and I'm asking for some giving, so I'd vote for a thing for this budget. But if nobody wants to go there, then I'm okay where I'm at. But I am for these schools, and I am for that money. But $7.4 million, any way you look at it, is more than 1 cent. The number is $2,744,000 per penny. Last year I worked very hard to save the taxpayers a penny by going to AB Tech, because we're giving them money now to build buildings. They didn't need construction money, and pull that back in. It's $2 million. Mr. Jones, Green found another $800,000. So that saved the taxpayer 1 cent, 1 penny on their taxes. We went up 8 cents. Any way you look at that chart, from 56 cents to whatever, and putting this back in it, we're up to 60.4 cents on our thing. We went from 52.5. I don't know a lot, but I do know math. And the fact is, if everybody wants and nobody wants to give, that's okay. I'm fine with that. But I am for the schools, and I'll support the schools in any way I can. I'll support AB Tech all I can, being on the board over there. But it's called trying to work together a little bit. So does anybody want to give anything, or are we just going to sit the way we are?
Commissioner, I think we've had the recommendations for several weeks. The fiscal, according to the paper here, they requested $6.6 million. We are recommending in this budget about $2.5 million. Is that right?
$2,357,000 is the recommendation.
Okay. And so there's been, I think to suggest there's not been conversation is not accurate. We've tried to talk. Everyone who wants to be part of it, we've tried to include. We'll continue to do that. We included up to this morning. There were still discussions about things, and I think everybody was informed about what some of the people wanted to do. So we'll continue to do that. That's part of the process. This is probably our third or fourth meeting about the budget
It's our
publicly.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say we've probably had a couple of hundred privately amongst the seven of us, and that's a good thing. We need to talk about it. We need to know what it is. We need to understand what we want, what we don't want. But, we're funding about a third of what people ask for. And we vet it in the departments. They actually have contracts where they have to meet performance guides. For most of these, we've had a citizens group look at it, make recommendations to us. That's the HHS committee.
Mm-hmm.
We did that so we could dig deeper into the budgets and have people come in and talk to them and give us a recommendation. We've done it directly. We did it directly last year. We could do it directly next year. We do have, I think, checks and balances, and I think we can't have differences of opinion, though. But there's no right or wrong. It's what the majority of the commission wants to do, and we will have to pass a budget tonight. So these are all productive discussions. But to say we haven't talked or we haven't cut things, I don't think is under the record what we have in front of us here today.
And
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to also point out that no one until this point has asked me about any specific item to be cut. People have asked to put things in. Some things have been, and some things have been asked to be put in that have not been put in. But I haven't been asked any specific item to reduce or remove. And I've been fairly flexible. There's a few things in here that I have that are important to me, and they were in there, and I haven't gone to ask anyone to increase or decrease anything. So I have been open and flexible.
And if I could just remind everybody, we will put all of these funds under performance contracts with benchmarks, and we pay based on the ability or based on their progress toward those benchmarks and measures.
So, or to that point, are we doing any follow-up on the 12%, the administrative? I'm not saying kick out or anything like that. I think I remember in the community, I can't remember, but the meeting that I went to where you were actually showing the graphs.
Mm-hmm.
Of where they were. So I know the performance contract's being done, no question about that. I know those things are being done. And I know that there's reporting that's being done in those meetings. I know that I saw it, and I'm remembering seeing some graphs. Okay.
It's the Buncombe County Service Foundation.
That's what I was trying to...
That we do performance-based contracts for all of the monies that you allocate, and we do a monthly performance analysis report or a report card on their progress that we publish that's available.
That is very helpful to the people that are here. So and the 12%, are we coaching the nonprofits that are struggling with that percentage to be better nonprofits?
I don't know that
we're
measuring that for them, but we are not restricting it or.
Okay.
I think measuring is the best way to put it.
And Diane may prefer to answer this, but I do believe that they did calculate that this year, and that part of the discussions that Rachel Nygaard is holding with the nonprofits is, one, making sure we're comparing apples to apples and what they define as administration and what we define as administration.
Yes.
And I think there's a wide difference between those two right now, and we first need to be clear before we want to publish what those percentages are or take action. So I think that's our intent in the next year.
Well, and what I saw when I went to that meeting is they were improving. It was they were improving. They were striving to do better. So,
And we certainly do work improvement plans if they're not moving toward their goals. So it is a very much an evolving process all year long, intended to achieve the outcomes that you purchase with the public dollars.
so, and my point to that is that these are not bad discussions that we're having. When we are looking very carefully at the community development grants to make sure that we have the best people, not people, but the best organizations doing this work so that we can meet the greatest need. And I think that's what everybody wants. We're just going about it a little bit different direction, but that's what everybody wants, is we want to meet that need in the greatest way, and yes, in the most responsible dollar. Yes, yes, we want to do that. So we can take that savings and take it over and take care of the teacher assistants, or take care of the additional parks, or the different things we may want to fund in the future. So,
All right.
Chairman, may I bring up
Yes, sir, Mr.
something
Fryar.
else?
Yes, sir, Commissioner.
Unused properties that county owns. You know, we keep running this fund balance up. I'd like to amend the budget to direct the county manager to sell the properties located at 225 East Chestnut Street and return the proceeds to the fund balance. And we do not use the property and have no further plans for it. Second is, I'd like for the staff to look at all the properties that we have and what we're going to use, keep. Other than that, they need to be sold, and that money needs to be put in the fund balance. So if we could direct the staff in that form, I'd appreciate it, sir.
Okay, here's where we are procedurally. We are about to receive public comment. After public comment, I would like for someone to make a motion on the budget, and then I will entertain those motions. And I'd like you to repeat them. And I've got them, but you may have to repeat them. But let's do this step by step. But that's good. That's fine. Okay. Anybody in our pre-public comment session? And that's good. We've had some good things come out here. In the pre-public comment session, we will have a second shot at it. I promise you. But I did say, and I think the board agreed to have public comment. Anything else before we hear from the public on this budget? Okay. If not, let's see if there's any public comment on the budget. I asked people to wait until we did hear a little bit about the budget. I'm going to, in my discretion, say that, although I could say you can't speak again, but I'm not going to do that because I think it's important. Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I do appreciate getting to speak again on the budget. I wish you had done what I asked you the last time and put it to where we could have spoke on it and had knowledge of what you were doing before we spoke. Sitting here in this room like you are doing right now, we don't have a fair advantage to be speaking on anything. But thank you for allowing it anyway. But I will speak to something. Two things. You said, Ms. Jones, no tax increase this year. I think you're all full of it, and I don't mean it in a bad way. To say something like that is plumb out of reasoning. When you raise the taxes like you did last year, you raised it for enough for 4 more years, not 1, but 4. So you got a tax increase this year for the taxpayers. Then the CRA is another factor that you haven't even investigated yet, and you're voting on this budget. That's a big item that we ain't even got to the depth of yet. Now, the teacher, you're underplaying all politics today. You're underplaying it right into the hands of hugging and loving and twisting babies and kissing grandma and grandpa. I think it's a shame to sit there and talk like that when you know you're going to fund them anyway. Now, Dr. Green knows me well. Dr. Green was with me in the room with David Gantt in 1998 when I presented, the only private citizen that I know of ever presented to the county commissioners, and Tom Sobel was chair at that time. And I talked about the fund balance of Buncombe County schools and how erratic it was going. And we showed a line graph, and we showed all kinds of graphs. I've still got them. And I predicted today of what was going to happen. And it's happened today. It shows the increase that it was going to. Now, you say you ain't got no control over it and still provide for the teachers? Yes, you can. Teachers ain't going to be hurt one bit. In 1998, 60-some% of the teachers were at 20 and 30 years of experience. Today, they're not. But the same amount of money and more is going into that system as it was then, and that's the reason the fund balance is so far out of hand. They ain't even required to have a fund balance by state law. The only reason that they was fussing about it, they said they needed to keep that fund balance because they need to pay the teacher's salary. Well, come to find out, if Mrs. Parker had done her job and had got things in on time to pay the salaries of the teachers, they wouldn't have needed no fund balance. See how simple it could have been swapped? Now, if you want to go after something legit, go after the fund balance. They're rolling in money. Rolling.
Thank you, Mr. Rice.
You're welcome.
Any further comment on the public? Mr. Michael Love? Former Mayor Michael Love?
Chairman, again, I appreciate you including the elderly in your prayer today.
Thank you.
I've handed out my presentation, but let me make a point. I don't know why you're considering putting any money in the Pack Place or the Art Museum. Do you realize that the city of Asheville has told Pack Place that they are not going to renew the lease, and they are going to direct lease to the Art Museum and to Diana Wortham Theater? Coburn Museum is being kicked out as a result of this policy. The city's going to be the landlord. Why in the world would the county want to put money into a building run by the city? I don't understand it. And if any of you are city residents, why would you want to pay the tax twice? Because if the city's putting money in it and the county's putting money in it, your tax money is going in there twice. The Asheville Art Museum is ramrodding the need for a direct lease to the detriment of Pack Place as an education, art, and science center. There is no need for a direct lease, and that was discussed by Bob Ost a year ago. The Art Museum just doesn't want to accept that fact. The truth of the matter is the Art Museum doesn't want to participate as a partner under any partnership agreement with the board of directors. The county commissioner's getting fooled over this thing, and you really need to check into the fact that the city's taking over that building, and they're gonna fight it. Vice Mayor Hunt, and you can check this with Carol Peterson because she's your representative, and she was at the board meeting in June where the vice mayor said we're going to have direct leases with the Asheville Art Museum and the Diana Wortham Theater, and Pack Place Board's going to have to either fight that with a lawsuit or give up. Now, why in the world, in my opinion, I dedicated that building along with a lot of other people. Why in the world we want to do away with a wonderful place like that with people that are selfish? And the Art Museum just a selfish organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir, orange shirt. And Ms. Baldwin, you'll be next after this gentleman.
Yes, sir. I'm not very good at public speaking, but my name is Eric Vess, and I coach AC Reynolds High School. I'm concerned that the aquatic center was taken off the budget, and it was left as a line item, but the amount wasn't listed on there. I was at the CARA meeting, and it looked like there was $6.5 million that was allotted to that, and that's no longer on there. So you're using that money to fund these other things because there's a big need for it. All of our high schools have over 30 swimmers on their teams, and there's only one county-operated pool, which is the Zeugner Center, Skyland Rec. And and it's in shambles. It's on its last leg, and if it goes down, there is no place for us to practice. There would be 11 teams that would be competing over 2 private pools to rent in order for us to swim at. I can go over different numbers, but we've got ACR has a team, TC Robertson, Asheville High, Charles D. Owen, North Buncombe, Irwin even has a team. Not to mention the private schools, Asheville Christian Academy, Asheville School, Christ School. The homeschoolers have a team. There is with only one county-run pool for us to swim in, and I know that y'all don't want that pool to represent all of Buncombe County. If y'all have been there, I suggest you go by and check it out and see if that's what you want to represent Buncombe County. We also, right now, the summer league is going on. There's not if there was an aquatic center, then they could actually be utilizing it as well. We could host swim meets and have people coming in from all over the state, Virginia, South Carolina, Tennessee, coming in here and spending their money in this town and around Buncombe County. Aquatic center can be used for. We have 3 teams that are middle school clubs that are actually using that facility right now. The college swim teams, we have UNCA, Warren Wilson College, Mars Hill. We have plenty of lap swimmers, plenty of triathletes, master swimmers, water fitness, deep and shallow, both cross training, swim lessons, scuba lessons, kayakers. It can be an economic engine if we have the right facility, and I think it needs to be included in your budget.
Thank you, Coach. And I appreciate your comments at the CRA. Any other? Ms. Baldwin's next. Any other public comment after Ms. Baldwin? Okay.
I didn't prepare for 2 public comments, but I do want to talk about the assumption being made that the school board has done due diligence on their budget. This is not true. We were presented with a budget from the superintendent that had no stakeholder input. There was no public budget hearing. There was no input from school board members, and school board members did not even serve on the budget committee. It all happened behind closed doors. This budget seriously starves the classroom. The instructional supplies, as I mentioned, have gone from $1.8 million to $1.1 million using county funds. The superintendent, for whatever reason, has not asked for money for the classroom for teaching and learning. The textbook money you're funding is only going to fund some social studies books for 5th and 6th graders, as Dr. Baldwin said at the last meeting, that $100,000. We have almost 26,000 students who need textbooks, not just a few social studies books for 5th and 6th grade. I have brought up ways to fund these projects as far as that you all asked the state legislators to change the Article 39 sales tax that's designated for school construction and debt repayment. I'm all for debt repayment. Buncombe County Schools enrollment is falling. The last thing we need is to be building new schools. We need to balance our school populations in the Inca district between the elementary schools there. Some are unbalanced. There is no real overcrowding there. The middle school is at capacity. It was only a couple students over capacity, and that's without modular units. Modulars are used to balance school populations. There's no need to spend $25 million on brick and mortar when we have methods that are free, no cost. We could offer parents a choice to go into the Robertson district, for example, where there's more room, where Valley Springs Middle School is only at 53% capacity. We have terrible unbalanced school populations, and nobody wants to talk about redrawing attendance lines. We also, that Article 39 is bringing in $14 million a year, and it's supposed to increase. Yet that's going straight into the good part, the debt repayment, the bad part, the construction fund. when we need it for teaching and learning. We need to merge departments within Buncombe County Schools. Facilities and maintenance department could be merged into one unit. We keep hiring more assistant directors. We've got directors, assistant directors, supervisors, all these different layers of management that's unnecessary, especially a 4-person communications department, as I had mentioned earlier. You all can pressure the school district to do the right thing. You all can meet with the school board. There was never a formal meeting with us to discuss the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ball. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Cottom. I have had the pleasure, the privilege, and the blessing of coaching kids in the Buncombe County Schools for 16 years now as a swim coach, swimming and diving coach, and I'm here to speak about the aquatic facility. As long as, I guess it was maybe 14 years ago, we had a problem at Skyland Rec. And I can remember a couple of the commissioners coming out at that time and taking a look at the facility and saying, we need to do something about this facility. That was probably in year 2000, 2001. In 2008 or 2009, there was a land transfer between the county commission, or the county and the school board, where there was an obligation, from my understanding, that there would be a new aquatic facility built near the location of Skyland Rec. We had some economic tough times. I understood that an aquatic facility would be put off at that time. But again, it was put in the budget and taken out. Again, it has been put in the budget and taken out again, and that facility is on its last legs. If that place closes down, you are taking some of the best scholar athletes you have, arguably the best, in Buncombe County schools, and they will be without a sport to participate in. Our school has had numerous times where Robertson has been in the top 5 in the nation on the scholar athlete list. I've had probably over 100 academic All-Americans on the swimming teams. We have had numerous very good students at the middle school swim clubs that we started 10 years ago. We have had to start cutting from the swim teams, both the middle school and the high school, because there simply isn't a facility large enough at this time. And if this one closes down, you'll be putting an axe in public school swimming in this area. There will be nowhere to go. There will be nowhere to practice, nowhere to have meets. It's gone. And that would be a horrible thing to do to these wonderful scholar athletes.
Thank you, Coach. Any other public comment? All righty. So I will call the end of the public comment. Let me recognize Dr. Green about the swimming. That was the last couple of things. We do have some money in there budgeted, and if you could kind of give the reason for that and what happened there.
At CRA, we were asked to go back and look at some additional options and look at expanded options. So we pulled the $6.5 million out. It was not used for anything else because we would have had to borrow that money. We did keep a little over $400,000 in there to try to keep Zordner running, and we will make every effort to do that. It is an old pool. I mean, it's a very old pool, and it has some problems. But we will bring you back in January some alternatives on how we move forward with the pool, a covered swimming facility, and we'll look at all of those options, both in location and size and ability to build and then expand. So we're looking at those options right now. I certainly hear them. We've worked hard, and Mr. Israel has to keep that pool running for a number of years.
I think if I can put on my old CRA hat, which doesn't have any use anymore, we spent a good year, almost a year, looking at all the possibilities, and there was general consensus of the board that an aquatic center would be a great economic development driver, plus also fulfill a lot of the needs in the community, because all of us realized that there is a tremendous need for it. So it's not off the table.
Yeah, I want to echo that also to make sure that you understand clearly that one of the things that happened in that CRA meeting is when y'all shut up, you spoke your heart, you told us what the need was out there. You know, we had to pull back and take a higher view of this thing and look at it to make sure that we do the right things. I can't speak for the others, but I think I can speak for the three that was on the CRA. There's clear agreement that we're gonna meet that need. To what level we have to see. That's what January is about. And again, that's one of the reasons why we look at these numbers, because there's another great need. You know, we look at it's a great need, and the public came and spoke, and that really enlightened the three of us that was on there, and we had some great conversations about that. So keep engaged, keep excited about it, keep bringing that information to us, and keep attending the meetings on it. We'll keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I would agree with both of what Vice Chair and Commissioner Belcher said. I was probably at that Zogner meeting, which you're talking about 14 years ago. It's been on the radar a long time. And amazingly, it has not broken down before now. But it's gonna soon. You and I both know that. We've been out there several times. The CRA did not reach out to you, and you should have been the first people we reached out to, because you're dealing with it every day. We didn't reach out to people that had been working on the aquatic center concept 10 years ago, because about 10, 15 years ago, there was a group that had a plan and was working on it and bringing it to us. So what we're going to try to do, and I think it starts in January, is to kind of get the best from everybody and sit down, see what we really need here, what's going to work. I'd love to see a new civic center, but that's probably not going to happen. The pool can happen. It's a lot different. You know, we own that. We're in charge of that. We should provide and will provide recreation facilities for our children, particularly the ones we have already that we haven't kept up. Or actually, we've kept up the best we can. And how old is it, 50 years?
Oh, it is.
Over 50-year-old facility. So, you know, we just, we haven't done what we need to do. We're going to do it. We did leave some money in there to keep it going and to do some planning and think about it. And so I very much want you to remain engaged. I don't think as taxpayers or as stewards of public money, we should haul off and just do something. And frankly, I'm not sure we were ready. We went to, Commissioner Belcher in particular went to several places. I know I went to a couple to look at their facilities. But it needs to be a community moving together, all, you know, the swim teams, the masters, all the people involved that might want a recreational swim. And we need to do a little bit better, I think, about getting everybody on board of what we need, feasibility studies, and then move from there. But it's not dead. I think this board's interested. We learned a lot about it. We learned the most that night that Commissioner Belcher's talking about when you came in and said, hey, you know, nobody asked me, but here's what I think, and that's what we want. That's why we have public meetings, public hearings, so we can hear from the public. And if there's ever an example of why it's a good thing, it was that meeting, because it really made a difference. And we realized we hadn't done our due diligence, and we didn't do as good a job as we should have. And I'll take responsibility as chairman of the CRA. We didn't do what we should have done, but we're going to do it this time.
Chairman Gantt.
Yes, sir.
May we bring Mr. Israel forward to see, you know, the expectations of how long this pool may last us until we can get the other pool done?
Sure.
He's
Mr.
the one.
Israel here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's really that's many faceted. We could have a problem tomorrow that with, let's say, the mechanical systems of the pool, and that would be under the pool deck, you know, the drainage system, something like that, and I could come to you tomorrow and say, you know, it would be foolish to put any more money into this thing. It's dead. I gave Dr. Green a number back of this, what I thought it would take for us to to bring it up to date and meet all the ADA requirements to make this pool really a usable 5-year option. And was it $800,000? I've got the roof patched right now. The thing's running. Hold your breath. So I can tell you.
No pun intended.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that answers the question that, we're going to have to do something pretty soon, one way or the other, the 800,000 or in January, make some kind of decision.
And let me say this, that all the 800,000 just meets the ADA issues and the building issues. It has nothing to do with the pool.
Okay.
That's still sitting on top of a 50-year-old pool that could, go at any time.
That gives me a better understanding. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay. All righty. I think the next procedure is there a motion to approve the budget as presented?
Mr.
Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the 2015 budget.
There's a motion by Commissioner Newman, and there's a second by Vice Chair Frost. Okay, now, Commissioner Fryar had some amendments to that budget. Let's talk about them. And as we talk about this, I will, before we vote on whatever is the final budget piece, I will give everybody a chance to speak again. Commissioner Frost. Excuse me, Commissioner Fryar.
Usage of property. I'd like to amend the budget to direct the county manager to sell properties located at 225 East Chestnut Street and return the proceeds to the county fund balance. We do not use the property, and we have no further use for the property, so it should be sold. Second, I'd like us to direct county staff to provide to this board a full inventory of all real properties that currently owned by the county and are not currently being used. That list needs to be divided into properties where there's no future planned use and others that they have planned usage and what the plans are. That's the two things that I'd like to put forward.
All right. Is there a second to the first motion to direct the county manager to sell the Chestnut
Mr.
property?
Chair, I'd like to know what the property, what is this property that and I'd like to know hear from county manager on this piece of property. I'm not familiar with the property.
This is a piece of property across from Fuddruckers on Chestnut Street. We have housed Earn and Learn, pretrial,
Okay, I
and
know
day
the piece
reporting
now.
in there.
So we're not using that?
We have just vacated that, and I looked it up after Commissioner Fryar was speaking, and if we can put the right language in there about which statute we'll have to look that up, which statute we're complying with and what the PIN numbers are. Mr. Frew looked it up, and the tax value on the properties are $887,600, so we would need to start the bid at that, start accepting bids at that tax value. We would need that in the motion.
That's 2 parcels.
It is 2 parcels, yes, 2 PIN numbers.
I know there's been some thinking about some uses that might not have played out, but I guess, are we at the end story for this building?
Yeah, we are. We've looked at it. It needs some work.
The best use would be to liquidate it and utilize those dollars. Well, I would be open if it's not too complex to it. I guess I would wonder if we would want. The part I'm not 100% with is like putting it back to fund balance. If it had a purpose for. I'd like to understand more about its past, to know how to invest its future. If it had a certain. Sounds like it was involved with juvenile justice issues in the past, perhaps. And
it's a piece of property that we got from Blue Ridge Area Authority a number of years ago, and we've used it for primarily for the types of organizations I described. It's a fairly big piece of property. It's just that with the work that we did in the courthouse, we've moved those functions back close to where they can be in the courtroom and where they really are doing their work. We have looked at it for other functions, but it's.
So I'd be fine with supporting the liquidation of it, but I would want to be more open to how the funds. It might be the best uses straight to fund balance, but it might be that to follow that it came from the mental health authority, that we utilize it for mental health services. We anyway, so I would like to not be tied down to how we would utilize whatever funds would come forward, but.
Question and maybe clarification on what you're saying. If it goes back to the fund balance, wouldn't we be able to, we're going to have to decide at that time what we do with it anyhow. So wouldn't that just be, if we sell any property, it's going to go back into the fund balance, right?
It would come in as revenue on sale of property and basically go to the fund balance at that point. I do think I have to go back and take a look at the dissolution documents on Blue Ridge. And we have invested county money in mental health, too, that might offset that, but I need to look at that.
Well, I certainly think it's a great strategy to do that, and then, because we just heard from, we're talking about aquatic center, debt service, possible, we get surprises all the time, so certainly that's a good way to.
The only thing I look at as far as the fund balance side, it helps in the fund balance that it'll pull it back down a little bit, and if we have to go back to it, then we just go back to it all.
Well, can I make a suggestion, Commissioner Fryar? Would you be willing to make your first motion? I'm probably supportive of your second motion, probably not the first, because this is the first I've heard of this. I've never heard anything about this. And I kind of did the same thing 18 years ago. It had a good ending. I said, I asked clerk to inventory all the property we hadn't had, and we determined we had 80 acres next to the Blue Ridge Parkway. And I said, I don't want that developed. That's right next to a national treasure. But we had to do some gyrations. It took a while, but we ended up getting money to pay for that was purchased by, I think, one of the conservation trust groups that started our conservation easement program, and half of it went into affordable housing.
It did.
And so I think that I agree with the idea. I would prefer, and I would suggest, if you'd be willing to consider this, Commissioner, to consider the first one. Let's do an inventory, including the Chestnut Street, and let's dot all the i's, cross all the t's, and then decide what and when to sell and where to put the money. Would you consider that as a friendly to do the second motion first, to inventory all unused county property, and then let's think about it a little bit more?
Yeah, on the second motion, yeah, I'm fine. The first motion, if we're sitting on the property and we have two of our staff said that there's a good possibility it should be sold, that we ought to listen to that. We've had it, and it's become all of our use, and that's the only reason. I'm not saying that we're trying to sell a museum. I'm just trying to say we're trying to, here's a property that can help the taxpayers a little bit, or if we need to do something else with the money. Holly, if it's to help anything, I'm okay with that. All right.
Okay.
So, can I offer?
Vice Chair Frost.
I agree with the second part of it. I'm sure this is not the first time the county has sold land, and I worry the precedent setting, to single out property here and there, instead of, as the chair said, get a comprehensive list and then go through it somewhat systematically. I mean, the county selling property isn't a new thing.
So why don't we, just a suggestion, why don't we word it as the second part, but give priority to this location that Mr. Fryar has mentioned to review first?
We could certainly do that and bring that back to you in August for a motion.
Would that work?
Would that be acceptable? Okay.
Let's do that.
So can we combine them to say that the motion would be to provide a full inventory, direct the clerk and the county attorney and manager to provide a full inventory of all unused county property, including but not limited to the Chestnut Street property?
Chestnut Street property, I think we ought to try to put first, and then look at the other stuff.
Okay.
What do you think, David?
And then take appropriate action as soon as we get that report and recommendation from staff?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right. Would that be okay? Is that so? With that motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Newman. Is there any discussion of the amended motion, which is to provide a full inventory of all unused county property, to including but not limited to Chestnut Street, to give Chestnut Street priority, and to report back, and then the county take action on in priority the Chestnut Street property, as well as any other properties based on staff recommendation and further research. That good? Okay. Any discussion of that motion? That by Commissioner Fryar, second by Commissioner Newman. All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Then that motion is adopted 7-0. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to accept the budget as presented. We've had one amendment. Are there any other amendments or any other motions on the pending, on the table motion to adopt the budget as presented? Okay. If not, are there any comments by any commissioner? And I will start my left.
I think to say that the amount of time and effort that has gone into this budget, I think it began last year, probably last June. It has been scrutinized. I agree with Commissioner King. This is the first time my Republican friends have asked to change anything in it. There's been a great deal of dialogue and a great deal of thought. And particularly the Art Museum, I wanted it to really be clear. Last year, this board agreed to give $250,000 to the expansion. This year, again, we have agreement to give another $250,000, and I would like to say that I hope this can continue because the Art Museum, among other things, is a great economic driver in our community. As far as Pack Place goes, I think it's very clear to say that the money designated sticks with Pack Place. If there's any change in management or something else, then it will be reviewed. As Commissioner Jones said, if I had my way, would this budget be different? Yes, but this budget is about compromise, and I think it's fairness, and I think commend the staff on doing a great job.
Mr. Newman.
There's been a lot of comments already made. I won't repeat some of the reasons that some of the other folks who are supportive of the budget have already outlined for their reasons for supporting it, that they've done so I think very eloquently already. But other than to say that I do think that I in particular feel good about the fact that we are holding the line on the property tax rate for this year, and I feel very good about the fact that we did listen to the recommendations of the county school board and the city school superintendent, who came forward and articulated what they see as important additional needs that they asked us to fund beyond the base budget that was originally proposed. And I feel very good about us making those additional investments into our public schools in Asheville and Buncombe County. And I appreciate everyone giving that careful consideration over the last several weeks since their request came to us. I also do feel good about the fact that we are taking additional steps to the county's clean energy policy was mentioned earlier. I feel very glad to see us taking these additional steps forward to make the county facilities more energy efficient, and to make sure that the plans that we adopted are not just sitting on the shelf, as we knew they would not, with the great staff that we have who continually look for ways to make our facilities more energy efficient and providing continuing leadership in that arena. So thank you for the chance to share a few additional comments, Chairman.
I would like to also thank the staff. I mean, you cannot imagine how much work has been done in reacting and changing to all the input coming from us and other places. I do think the dialogue tonight has been very good. I don't think it's bad at all. I think the interaction that we've had has been very good. We come at this in different ways, and I'm not going to go into my comments have been very clear so far, being very supportive of education, but being also concerned that we make sure that we are responsible and that we are measuring those that we have performance contracts, and so that we would be able to, when we can, save money to be able to use in the best way to take care of our children and our community. Thank you.
Commissioner?
I think my colleagues have made some very succinct reflections about this budget, and I would just echo the excitement about investing in education, because I do feel like this is a moment in our state where the professionals in education their voices are not being heard, and they're not being treated with the respect and the dignity that they deserve. And I believe that this board has heard the professionals within education as the voices of the students and the voices of the students in the classroom. So I feel like we have done in our communities about education. We all know that. So I feel like we've reflected the needs of the community and the values of the community by our priorities in this budget, and I'm open to having conversations in the future and thinking about it again next year. But I feel like we landed in a great place around education. And the only other thing that I would want to highlight in this budget has to do with the investments in safety, public safety in particular, related to domestic violence services. I appreciate everyone on this board being, 100% behind wanting our citizens to be safe in their homes and on the streets, and the additional investments that, in the scheme of things, were not big ticket items, but it did require some openness and some additional investments, as we alluded to earlier, with the community development contracts. I don't like to call them grants, because I think that the organizations work and deliver a product and a service. So that's very important and not insignificant, and to be highlighted and celebrated.
Mr. King?
It's like to say we could take this budget back and wait another 2 weeks and work on it, and we'd be right back in the same spot we are this evening, wrangling over it. We have to have a budget, and no one is ever going to be totally happy with the budget. We would have 7 different budgets, but the task at hand is to bring all of those thoughts together and come up with a budget that we can live with. Maybe we're happy with some of it, maybe we're not happy with some of it, but the bottom line is we have to have a budget. And the overriding thing, I think, for us is to try to figure out how we best serve the community. I don't think anyone on this board wants to do anything other than do the best job they can. We may see it a little differently from one to the other commissioner, but the bottom line is we do want to serve the community the best way possible. And we're never going to agree on how that should be done, but we should be willing to compromise and say this is where we're going to be. And the public is never going to agree on where we should be on everything. But I feel like it's as good as we get. We're not coming back for an increase. We are holding the line on that, and as a result, I think we should be in good shape for the next budget round. So, therefore, I'm very supportive of what Dr. Green and the staff have done. It's really their efforts who have brought us a budget, which then we start tearing apart and start trying to put it back together. But fortunately, we have great people that work at this county. And I'd like to make one comment that troubles me greatly, as I hear people make assumptions that we as a county don't do a good job, that we don't act as good stewards of the money. The people who work at this county do a fabulous job. I've not come across anyone who does not work very hard, does not make every effort to see that the citizens of Buncombe County are well served, and every cent of county dollars is accounted for. So I can't speak for what other counties do or don't do. I can't speak for what the state does or the federal government, but I can say this county does a great job. And we have great staff, and we're very fortunate to have them. And this budget reflects that, and I will support it.
Mr. Fryar?
It's been an interesting evening. We can't give to get, so that's an area. We're mandating thermostats, $105,000 worth of them. They will be set on 74 degrees. We show up every 2 weeks, maybe. So we're not going to be the ones that's sitting in hot offices or hot courtrooms or anywhere. There'll be 68 degrees in the wintertime. So let's, if we mandate it, let's put it into effect, and there'll be nobody can get away from it. We're not going to give to the judges. We're not going to give to anybody, including ourselves. We will go in our warm offices, or we'll go in our cold offices in the wintertime. But I can't respect all these people sitting out here that work very hard, and I don't understand why you're here listening to us tonight, because y'all do work very hard, and I appreciate every bit of the work that you do. But if we're going to mandate anything like the energy footprint deal, let's start tomorrow. So we need to turn the thermostats down and be ready. So that's, if nobody's wanting to help in any way in them areas, I want to help the schools. I'm going to stay with the schools, no matter what. But if voting for this budget don't mean I'm voting against the school, because that come up late this evening. And I've tried to work it to where we could come up with $500,000, so we don't add another $600,000 to our fund balance. Yeah, we're supposedly in budget, but we're having to take money out of the fund balance, and they make it up during the year somehow or another, and that's why I want to try to get some money back into fund balance. So if anyone wants to help, I'll definitely be voting against the budget.
All righty. This is the 18th time I've done a budget. It's always hard. Each one has different routes to get there. This has been a hard one. I want to thank the county manager, Donna, Diane, all the staff. A lot of them are here today. They've worked real hard. You've tried to take what we've given you, which can be a moving target, because contrary to about what some of you say, we do listen to the public, and we're very mindful of what you say. And I think everybody up here has at one point, since they've been a commissioner, changed their mind based on what the public comments were. So you have a budget here this go-round that is the same, basically the same tax rate. We had to put the CRA, Cultural Recreation Authority, back into the budget, but it's the same rate. We didn't go up on the rate, other than if you put them two together. We did if you look at the budget without the CRA over here, 3.5 cents, but you put it in there, it's the same money. It's slightly less money than last year at the end of the day. But what it does that I like is it meets our core services. And that's one thing that the county manager said to me over the years. At one time, she said it 100 times, we've got to prioritize and do county core services. We've identified what they are, and that's the first thing we do. And if that's all we have money to do, that's all we do. But we're going to do that. We prioritize, and this kind of discipline has led us to a AAA rating. That's the highest you can get. We're borrowing money. She said all of our money, 80% of our money, is below 4% interest. I bet we couldn't get that no matter how good our credit rating is, but we happen to have such a good credit rating. And that leads to one of the priorities we do, and we may disagree with some members of the school board, but if we can get money for 2.7% a couple years ago, now it's up to 3.4%, borrow, we probably should build, because it's probably not going to be that low again in our lifetime. So we're building 5 schools right now, if you include AB Tech. We're going to build an Inca Intermediate School. We're going to build an Asheville Middle School for the first time in how many years?
Plus 30, yeah.
Plus 30. We're going to build an Isaac Dixon, and plus 100. I mean, I think they found cave people stuff when they were digging in there. It's been so long. We're going to do a STEM school, which is science and technology, engineering and mathematics, and we're going to continue with AB Tech. It's all going to happen because this is what we hear you want. You want a good educational system, and so we're going to do these things. We've saved And this got lost in the discussion tonight. We saved $29 million because we're not so big-headed that we think we have to do everything ourselves. When we partner with Eblin, when we partner with Helpmate, when we partner with all the different groups we do, because they're already doing it, we save $29 million than if we took the approach of some counties, which is we got to do this ourselves. They don't do it as good as we do. We're going to reinvent the wheel. It's a culture here. And if you look at it like a mortgage on a house, we have a $200,000 house. We have an $88,000 mortgage on a $200,000 house with everything we're talking about tonight. So I think there's been some good stewardship here. One thing we can't do in the county level is to undo the General Assembly cuts in education. We're just not going to be able to do that. If the school board spent all their school fund balance and had zero in balance, they couldn't do it. That is something that I hope changes. I hope that it's a different thing, but we don't have any control over that. We've cut the request of people that came to us and said we need money from $6.6 million to $2.3 million. And there's some that would say that's $2.3 million too much. But here's some of the programs we're going to fund. Families from Habitat for Humanity, Family Services and Homeowner Empowerment. From ABCCM, the Hominy Valley Project, where they're going to have a medical clinic out in Hominy Valley, an area that desperately needs that. We're going to have a playground at Black Mountain, Lib Harper Playground. We're going to have a career academy funded at Irwin High School. Personal safety, education outreach, crisis intervention with child abuse prevention services. We're going to have food security with the cooperative extension. Graduation initiative, which is wildly successful at Eblin. We're going to do a Go Kitchen, crisis stabilization for domestic violence victims. We're going to work with Homeward Bound to try to give people that might be panhandling and not have a place to stay some hope. We're going to be tutoring. We're going to do child and family protection because of Jim Barrett there and Pisgah Legal. We're going to help them out. With the ARC for the developmentally disabled people, we're going to help them with health and wellness. Youth advocacy for the youth empowerment services. YWCA, drop-in child care, and mother love. Those are some of the things we choose to do. We don't have to do those. But I think we're a better community if we take the time to do these things. And I think this board gets that. I think this board understands the steps you have to go through. Do we need the service? If we don't need it, stop right there. We don't do it. The second step would be, does the community want the service? The third step is, if the community wants it and we feel like we need it, can we partner with anybody to do the service? And then the fourth thing, if they don't have a partner, should we do it anyway? And then finally, after we go through all those steps, we say, should we do this and can we afford it? And I think we do this for every program we look at. It's vetted, it's talked about. It's never a perfect budget. Several have said that. If I was king, I wouldn't support some of the things, and I would put more in and take some out. But it is a compromise, and that's where you come in and help us compromise. We talk among each other and compromise. We hear the staff recommendations. We hear our citizens group recommendations, and we use our common sense. And we work, and this is what we've come up with. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it a budget that I think helps people become the best people they can possibly be? I think it is. I think it is. I think we want people, don't want a handout, we want a hand up for people. And I think this budget does this as best we could under very difficult circumstances with the General Assembly that has done a lot of changes for better and worse to us, and we're trying to work with them, and we'll work with our representatives in Raleigh, our representatives on the school board, city and county, and most importantly, we're going to work with the citizens of Buncombe County because that's what you elected us to do. So that's the way I look at it. Any other comments? If not, I'll call the question. The motion by
Browning and second by Ellen.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Newman and second by Vice Chair Frost is to adopt the budget that was presented today by the county manager. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
The budget is adopted as presented by a 5-2 vote, Belcher and Fryar against. Thank you. Okay. Next up. What is next up?
The delegate.
Okay, delegate to the North Carolina State Association. I would be glad to do this. I would, if Commissioner Belcher would be willing to do that, I would nominate him as our representative if he's willing to do it.
And I would be willing to do that if you'll be the alternate.
I'll be
Okay
glad
with
to be
that?
alternate.
All right, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, there's a motion by the chairman. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion, second by Commissioner Belcher. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of appointing Commissioner Belcher as our voting rep and me as the alternate, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then that motion is adopted 7-0. All righty. We don't have any board appointments. We passed the consent agenda. The announcements. See, I got so wrapped up, I lost my place. Sorry. I guess there won't be announcements. Oh, there will be announcements. Thank you. Thank you. If it's snaky, it would have bit me. Thank you very much, Commissioners. The next regular meeting of the board will be August 5, beginning at 4:30 in room 326 at 200 College Street in downtown Asheville. Commission meetings can be seen on BC Charter Cable Channel 192, ATT Uverse Channel 99, and live on BC TV Channel 192 and on buncombecounty.org during the meetings or online any other time after the meetings. I believe we have a closed session tonight, and what will be the purpose tonight?
We have four matters under General Statute 143, 318, 11A3, all legal matters, just looking for direction from the board. One is involving Anna Harper, Industrial Commission case file number 14-707382. One is the matter of Will Coxon versus Buncombe County. That's U.S. District Court file number 13CV224. One is a matter just to let the board know of a circumstance and just get direction. And final is an old one, Melanie Petrillo versus Buncombe County and others from U.S. District Court 06CV199. Just need direction from the board.
Okay. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Second?
Second.
Commissioner Fryar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are in closed session. We do not expect any action taken when we get back. Thank you. The CRA.
I know, that's what I'm going to tell you. See if I listen to you.
Oh,
So let me give you my spreadsheet and you can see.
okay, that'd be great.